This is the new Profitec Pro 800 2.0, a massive spring lever espresso machine with a 58mm group head, a huge 3.5-liter PID-enabled copper boiler, and an incredibly satisfying lever that begs to be pulled by an old-timey barista or modern-day hipster. Okay, quick disclaimer, this machine was sent to me by Profitec in collaboration with Whole Latte Love, but no money exchanged hands, and as always, all thoughts and opinions are my own. This video is not sponsored, but is made possible by you guys using my affiliate links in the description and those that have also joined as a channel member to further help support the channel. If you haven't already, I suggest you pause, go check out my initial unboxing and first impressions video of this machine, and then come back here. Done? Great, let's continue. So I've had this machine for about a month, and I've been using it as my daily driver. So in this video, I'm going to run you through some of the specs, the build quality, the workflow, the shot quality, some steaming, and finally, if it's worth it, and if it might be the right machine for you. Firstly, this is a big machine. It's nearly 80 pounds in weight, measuring about 13.4 inches wide, 23 inches deep, and about 29 inches tall with the lever attached. This machine is not one that you buy and stick in your kitchen underneath a cabinet, that's for sure. It's a looker. It's big, it's bulky, and it has a huge shaft. It's going to be noticed. The machine has a massive PID-enabled 3.5-liter brew boiler that is used for both steaming and brewing. The water reservoir here is also quite large at 3 liters. Unlike some of the machines I've used in the past, this drip tray has quite a different shape. It's a little bit wider and a lot slimmer with just a 1-liter capacity. In practice, I've found myself filling the reservoir about once a week and draining it about twice a week for an average 1 to 2 shots pulled per day with steam use. I found that you can extend how frequently you have to empty out the drip tray by using a cup in your workflow. Build quality in this machine is nearly identical to that of the Profitec Pro 700, which means it's really good. Stainless steel parts all around, rubber handles on the no-burn steam wand and hot water valve, and nice wooden accents on the handle and levers. Although you will notice here that I swapped out the wood for some custom olive wood parts by Musa Tampers, so shout out to them for sending that over. The panels are smooth with no warping, they're nice, thick, again similar to the Pro 700. On the front panel we have a green light indicating power and an orange light that lets you know if the machine's out of water. There's an on-off switch in between that I keep set to on all the time and use a smart plug instead to control power. This lets me get the machine warm and ready to go just as I get out of bed in the morning. Speaking of which, this machine does take some time to get warm. About 40 minutes is the recommendation. You can speed it up a little bit by pulling some hot water through the group, but it definitely does still take some time to get hot and up to pressure. Again, you have a massive boiler in here. On the front panel, we also have a large dial that shows the pressure gauge, which is not brewing pressure, it's simply boiler pressure. It's also in a nice green colorway I think actually accents my setup pretty well. When the machine is ready to go, the indicator on the dial is generally around 1.5 bars of pressure. The top of the machine has a secondary lid-like tray that acts as a cup warming tray and hides the water tank, exactly like the Pro 700s. Although it also suffers the same lack of details where it has some rougher front-facing edges, and this one also had an issue where the left side of the cup rail did pop out. Underneath the drip tray we have a switch that lets you swap between plumbed-in line and water reservoir, and on the right side we have the PID. And finally we have the huge, heavy-duty spring lever group. In testing I found that it takes about 20 kilos of pressure to pull down, and more on this later in the workflow section. Okay, so a little bit about levers. I did a little research and I reached out to the team at the Lever magazine and chatted with them a little bit about lever machines, how they work, some of the best practices when it comes to using them for dialing in shots. The Pro 800 is a spring lever espresso machine using a dipper system. Because it's a single boiler machine, water temps are obviously going to be too hot for brewing since it has to be hot enough for steaming. So how this system works is, the group head essentially acts like a thermoblock to siphon away heat from the boiler down to a more brew-stable temperature. Steaming and brewing can be done simultaneously, because once you release that lever, all the water needed for the extraction is already in the group. Okay, so with that little extra bit of knowledge now injected into your mind, I'll show you what my typical workflow looks like with this machine for my morning cappuccinos. Now this being a 58mm group head means it's compatible with all my usual 58mm accessories, so prep work here is just about the same. You want to dose, grind, WDT, tamp, and Mocha Mondays puck screen, and lock. One thing to note is that this is not an E61 machine, so the flanges on the portafilter are a little bit different from an E61 group. It does still fit, but out of caution I'd probably recommend against using other portafilters and vice versa. So first I pull down the lever, which again uses about 20 kilograms of force, and I hold it there for about 6 to 10 seconds to let it pre-infuse at a true low 1 to 2 bars of pressure. Then I lift up and slowly let go once I feel resistance. From there, the spring lever is doing the work to pull that shot at 9 bars and slowly ramp down pressure until the shot stops. 3 important things to note. Start your grind coarse. You don't want to choke the machine. There's a lot of pressure between the portafilter and the group itself, so you want to stay cautious. Secondly, the machine has a powerful spring. Don't let go abruptly because the lever will spring back in your face and knock you out. Or so I've been told by the Profitec team. And finally, don't release the portafilter before the shot is finished. Again, because of the pressure built in between. Now, while the shot's being pulled, you can step back and simply watch it go or steam milk at the same time. And that's generally been my single drink workflow. So now that the workflow is a bit out of the way, let's talk about steaming. First, as you'll notice, this machine uses levers over knobs. I like that change. It's a lot nicer to use and gives me full steam power very quickly. I've generally learned that I still need to do a little quick purge before getting to that truly dry steam power. The steam wand itself is fully articulated, but unlike machines I've used in the past, it doesn't actually point completely straight down, so you have to adjust how you steam just a little bit. The steam power here is good, and I've been able to get some silky textured milk without issue. It's comparable to something like the Bianca, maybe a little bit more powerful, and it's also worth noting that it's just a little less powerful than something like the Pro 700, at least from my personal anecdotal experience. Now, espresso in a lever machine is pretty different from a traditional pump machine. Because of that ramp down in pressure and that true soft, low pressure pre-infusion, you can get some really soft and silky shots. Now, I found you can get some mimicable shots on a flow controllable machine like the Bianca, but there's something about this. Maybe it's a placebo thing, but the true soft pre-infusion and mechanical pressure ramping of a spring lever has really given me some truly soft textured and sweet shots. With regards to dialing in, you have a few variables you can control: water temp, pre-infusion length, pressure profile, and shot volume. Now, with regards to pressure profile, and this being a spring lever machine, you're going to get that classic declining pressure lever profile, but you can actually push the lever if you want to increase pressure a little bit, or hold it back to decrease pressure a little bit. Now, like I mentioned before, you can't stop the shot midway through like a pump machine, so you will have to slide your cup out of the way once you hit your desired output. This is largely the reason why I found that you need to empty the drip tray more frequently, so having a cup here can kind of help mitigate that. Now, generally, I've had pretty good results with medium roasts easily. Lighter roasts are also certainly doable, and in my experience, I've noticed that they just require a little bit more pre-infusion. I've been using a 20 to 22 gram basket with a 19 gram dose, plus a Mocha Mondays puck screen, and generally I found that I can grind a little bit finer than I would for something like the Bianca. Okay, now I think James said it best in his Olympia Cremina review.
But then there's the actual process of using your hands to create espresso. That is incredibly satisfying. It's a machine that encourages hospitality. You want to make way more espresso than you want to drink. I really enjoy using this thing. It is an incredible pleasure to do so. And I would understand that it's part of a journey for a lot of people. In some ways, it would be a terrible shame to start here in your espresso journey. If this was your very first machine, you probably wouldn't know how good you've got it. You wouldn't know quite how much fun you were having unless you'd had something else beforehand.
And I found this to be true. I want to use this machine for more than just me and my girlfriend's morning cappuccinos because it's such a fun machine. Like James also said in his review, in some ways it would be a terrible shame to start here with a beautiful lever machine. Luckily, I started with a Gotcha Classic Pro, worked up to a Rocket Apartamento, Profitec Pro 700, and the late Bianca, and have finally now landed here at a premium lever machine. This machine reminded me of what it feels like to get into espresso for the very first time again. A few years ago, back when I had the Gotcha Classic Pro, I was so enamored by the process. It was interesting to have to weigh, dose, grind, tamp, pull the shot, and time everything in between to get what we call espresso. At least, good espresso. And that interesting process led to me filming the process, which of course led to the creation of this YouTube channel here today. Now, in a way, I feel like I've almost come full circle, back to a machine that's inspiring to use and really puts the term pulling a shot of espresso to work. It's incredibly fun. But that fun might not be for everybody. I intentionally delayed this review quite a bit because I truly wanted to get over that honeymoon phase of owning a brand new lever espresso machine like this. Now, firstly, this machine does lack the level of control you might get with something like the Bianca. A more simple pump machine with 2 boilers, a PID on each, flow control, and unique electronic modes. Secondly, this machine is obviously a little bit more manual, and a bit more work is involved, and it's a little bit slower to pull shots back to back because you do have to wait in between. Plus, the 20 kilograms of effort needed to pull is not going to be what everyone wants to do early in the morning. But for me, I feel like at this point you might be able to gauge how I feel about this machine. I absolutely love it. If you're in the market for a lever machine and you want that extra bit of PID control, extra touch of modernity, and quality of life upgrades that a modern machine gets you, while retaining that full nostalgic lever feel, then this is the machine for you. I will mention that after experiencing a machine like this, I'm very interested in trying out what other lever machines have to offer, and hope to get my hands on some classics real soon to compare. Okay, so that's going to wrap up my full Profitec Pro 800 version 2 review. As always, don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.